Welcome to Pario magazine, where I chat with individuals who have a desire to create. Today, I am joined by a fellow nerd and podcaster who has pursued her passion for comics, particularly Marvel, by fostering a non-toxic and incredibly positive community through her podcast, Vigilante Vibes. Welcome to Pario magazine, Megan Nichole.
Thank you for having me. I'm a really big fan.
My pleasure. So we're here today to chat about your podcasting journey with Vigilante Vibes. But before we dive into that, do you want to give our audience a little intro as to who Megan is away from the microphone?
I'm a huge nerd, a huge comic nerd, huge Marvel fan. Away from the microphone, I'm a really big MMA and UFC fan, and I'm also a mother and a wife.
Very nice. That's an interesting mixture. I would not have picked UFC MMA fan alongside Marvel comic book fan as well.
I'm just a bunch of random stuff put together.
So how and when did you sort of discover the passion for comics, specifically Marvel?
I've always been a Marvel fan even before I realized the characters I loved were Marvel since I was a child. So Spider-Man's always been my big thing. And then you get into the animated series and the shows and you get into the movies. And then at some point you're like, okay, we need to just take it all the way to the ground and read the comics. So now comics are such a big part of my life. I even review them for nerdinitiative.com. So my whole life is just nerdy stuff everywhere.
Very nice. And I see X-Men 97 there on that t-shirt. Is that like a new favorite show at the moment? I thought that was an awesome series.
It was so good. I loved it so much. It's become a comfort show, as wild as it is. Sometimes I just play it in the background.
Very nice. You mentioned Spider-Man. Was Spider-Man the earliest favorite, and has the fandom and favorites changed over the years?
Spider-Man was the first one, and then it quickly went into X-Men after watching the X-Men, the anime series. So it's been Spider-Man and X-Men all the way through.
What's it like now looking at how the sort of comic fandom is? It's not kind of used to kind of be looked at like, oh, that's for the nerds. Like you go over there and watch your cartoons and read your comics. Now it's kind of, they're some of the biggest things going.
Yeah, now it's very mainstream, which I do like because that just means more comic readers, more comics for us with the more readers, and there's more merch out there for us to buy. I do like that there's a lot more now. I know some people are like, "Oh, we used to get bullied for it," but it's like I like that there's more nerds out in the world. I think that's nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not confined to the shadows and hidden away now.
Yeah.
It's like everybody has
Yeah,
some connection to at least one Marvel character.
I agree.
Do you have a favorite current Marvel character or series?
Um, Probably animated series is X-Men 97. Comic series right now, I'm really loving Steve Orlando's run of Scarlet Witch and Gail Simone's Uncanny X-Men. Right now, those are my top two favorite.
Awesome. So obviously you host the Vigilante Vibes podcast. When and
Mhm.
how did you sort of discover this world of podcasting? And was there a particular moment where you went, wait, I want to create my own version of this?
I had always wanted to do one, but it's just such a big, overwhelming thing to start. And I did have a co-host who started it with me, but that ended terribly a couple weeks ago. And
Mhm.
now it's just me, and I've never felt so free before to make content I feel proud of. I think the podcasting community is the best community of all time. People are just so kind and so willing to help and wanting to support. And I've seen all of that in the past few weeks, and it's been such a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I didn't want to sort of go into the negative side of it. Is that like the biggest lesson you've taken away from the podcasting journey so far?
I don't care if you go into I really don't. Um, I think the biggest lesson I've learned is to not let people have your passwords to your emails or anything because they could just lock you out and you have to start all the way over. So that's been something I've learned.
But now you are, like you mentioned, you're shifting and going down this path of this is like really what I wanted to create. Has that been a super exciting process as well to just kind of, I'm actually going to follow through on my vision exactly how I want it now?
Yeah, my when I originally started the podcast, I said I wanted to make a safe space for Marvel fans where they won't have to hear all the toxicity that's out in the fandom, like the racism, the homophobia, sexism. And that's always what I wanted to do. My ex-co-host wanted it to be flashier, more gossipy, more leaning into the untrue rumors of the Marvel fandom just to get attention. I never wanted it that way, and now it feels good to just have it exactly how I want. Just people talking about Marvel, what the things they do like, they don't like, without being in fear that it's going to get ignorant at some point in the conversation.
Yeah, and it's like you're kind of like me with my podcast, the commentary booth. We're trying to find the positives, trying to find the things that you can highlight. Like if even if you watch a movie or a TV show that you might not 100% like love, there's always
Mhm.
at least one or two things that you can find that are the good highlight points from that.
I agree. There's always something, and if you absolutely hated a project or a comic, that's okay too. It's just give reasons why you hated it. And if those reasons are because the main character is black or the main character is a woman or they race swapped, I don't want that. You take that somewhere else. I want
Yep.
actual reasonings, not just you showing who you are as a person.
Yep. Yeah, like I'm the same as like find positive criticism, like something that can help improve the product, not just oh, I didn't like it because they the lead's a woman. Like okay, cool.
Yeah.
That doesn't that doesn't really affect the story that much, really.
I agree.
So, for our viewers that may not have listened or watched the Vigilante Vibes podcast, which is available on all platforms and YouTube,
Mhm.
uh, do you want to sort of describe it for our fans and explain what the show is?
Yeah. So I will talk about Marvel news, discussions, theories, reviews, anything of the sort. And I give my honest opinions about it, even if they're negative. I think people get the word toxicity confused with negative. A negative opinion isn't toxic. It's just how you go about it.
Mhm.
Um, but there won't ever be any racism, homophobia, sexism. You'll never hear me call something woke, whatever that is. Um, and none of my guests do either. The only people I bring onto the podcast are people that are a positive presence in the fandoms. And not all my guests are Marvel fans. Some are Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, DC. I want all of them. I think every fandom should have all these safe spaces. So it's a very safe space for any kind of fan.
And now that the show is sort of undergoing that revamp process leading into 2025, are you looking to sort of expand beyond just straight Marvel and go into just the more geekdom world in general?
I'm always open to it. Marvel is my biggest thing. Um, and a lot of fandoms I don't know too much about, which is why I bring other guests in that know way more than me. So I'm always learning with when guests join too.
And also, how has that process been over the last week or two of sort of doing a lot more guest spots yourself and then also bringing in interviewees and more guests onto the show rather than just that dynamic of you and a co-host?
I loved it. That's what I always wanted to do. I wanted it to feel like a community. I wanted to have people on the show to give me their perspectives. We all come from a different walk of life. I want to know yours. And before, when I had a co-host, he hated having guests. He hated it so much. So I guess he thought it took the attention off him, which is something to say. But now I think last week I had a guest on. I recorded every single day with a guest. I just keep taking everyone because it's like I want people to be on there. I want them to nerd out with me. I want to connect with positive people. And that's what I love. It's been so fun. It's been so freeing. I've learned a lot. I've gotten to know a lot of people. It's been a really, really cool journey.
Yeah, I think like even with this show, like that sharing that passion with other people can be so exciting. And yes, the conversation dynamic might not be there that you would have with someone that you've been having this conversation with over years at a time, but just that energy of like this is something I love always comes through, I think.
I think the same thing. And it's always feels so good to just vibe happily with other nerds.
And then on that note, what are some of your top tips for people sort of looking to get into podcasting or even just like pinning down a fandom and sort of getting into that space?
Um, if you're going to start a podcast, don't make things because you think they're what people want to hear. Make things because it's something you would have want to hear. A long time ago, I would have really loved to have a non-toxic Marvel podcast. And now I make that because I know that's what I wanted. Make things that are authentic to you. Don't worry about the amount of people listening to you, the amount of listeners or followers you have. They don't matter. Like, it's a very competitive field. Making money off a podcast, it's very, very slim chance. So
Mhm.
why not just do whatever you want? Make it feel good for you. It's your outlet. It's you have complete control over it. Just do it. And if you're worried about where to start, honestly, start with a microphone and just ask other podcasters what recording platforms they like to use, and then see what works for you, because it what works for you work doesn't always work for me, and it does take some time to get comfortable in it, and that's okay. Whatever works for you.
Yeah, I've sort of had similar experiences. I think those when I started the podcast was in the middle of like the COVID lockdowns. So there
Yeah.
was really not much else to do other than watch some movies and talk about them. But yeah, I look back on some of those early episodes. I'm like, oh, that was atrocious. But you got to start somewhere. Like you can almost guarantee your first like 5 or 10 episodes aren't going to be great, but they're important.
And you don't even have to release those first 5 to 10 episodes. You can keep it, listen to it, and learn from it, and then start over.
And then, what are some of the highlights you've had over the years with the Vigilante Vibes podcast? Like you've had before it all disappeared, without you sort of having planned that. You had some pretty
Yeah.
awesome guests on there as well.
Yeah. We've had Lenore Zan from X-Men 97 and X-Men the Anime series. We've had some other X-Men 97 voice actors. We've had some comic creators like Erica Schultz, Stephanie Phillips, Luciano Vecchio. We've had Mick Wingert, who is most recently in Arcane, the show on Netflix. And he was the voice of Iron Man in all of the animated projects. So we've had a lot of really amazing guests that I loved each and every single one of them. They were all so nice, so fun to talk to. And I would love to do all of that again, each and every one.
Were you shocked when some of those guests like agreed to come on the podcast? Was it just a simple like reaching out on social media and then they just said, "Okay, you're cool"?
A few of them. The one that shocked me the most was Guy Augustini. He's the voice of Sunspot on X-Men 97, and he just said, "Okay." And I was like, "Oh, okay. It's that simple." But other ones took months and months of me going back and forth emailing their managers. Like Lenore Zan took months and months and months. So at some point I was like, "Okay, we're going to get it. It's just a matter of when we'll get it." But when she came on, she was just phenomenal. So it was all worth it.
Yeah, nice little pinch yourself moment. Make sure it's all actually real when it's happening.
Yeah.
Looking ahead to 2025, what are you most excited for with Vigilante Vibes?
A couple things, I guess, going to comic conventions. I'm excited for that. Um, to promote the podcast and get to know other people. That's something I always look forward to, and to have more guests on and to see where I go, who I get to meet. So far, I've met so many amazing people already, and I'm just excited to keep that community growing.
I'm very jealous of the sort of convention circuit in the US. You guys seem to have so many more options than we have here. I think we maybe get 2 or 3 a year if we're lucky.
They're not easy to the big ones like San Diego Comic-Con or New York Comic-Con, it's like if you're willing to pay a lot of money to get there, then you have to pay a lot of money to get in, and then it's so packed. So I go to the smaller ones that are maybe like an hour or 2 away from me, but that's really it.
And is there like a dream guest that you would love to have on the show at some point if possible?
Kevin Feige, I would love to have him on just to pick his brain, but other ones would be Gail Simone, the comic creator. She's someone I would just die to have on. I love her so much.
Fantastic.
Mhm.
And then while you're here, there are a lot of sort of Marvel production TV show films coming out in 2025. Is there one in particular that you would say is your most anticipated?
Probably Daredevil Born Again. I love
Brilliant.
the character. I love the comics. I love the show. And I love Charlie Cox as Matt Murdock. So I'm just so excited for that.
Yep. Yeah, me too. I'm super keen for that one. I would have said Blade was right up there, but who knows when we're going to get
We're not
when
getting
we're going to
Blade.
get that if we get that.
I don't think we are. I think it's time we all just kind of accepted it.
Yep. At least we
Yeah,
got a little bit of Blade in Deadpool and Wolverine, so I'm
that's
somewhat
true.
satisfied.
That's true. That gave you a fix. And Blade will be in Marvel Zombies. So
I would also love if we got a Gambit movie too, because I thought Gambit in Deadpool and Wolverine was awesome, and he's also my favorite Marvel character of all time. So.
I love Gambit. So good choice. Thought we were because Ryan Reynolds made a weird comment about it the other day, saying that whenever Channing Tatum has his Gambit movie, that he will be in it as a cameo as Deadpool, and that was like, what? So is he having one? Because that's what it sounded like to
Yeah,
me. Yeah,
that definitely seems like there's something in the works there, and I'm all for it because I loved that
I
character.
me too. And he's wanted it for so long to be Gambit, so why not let him have it?
Yeah, it's cool to see someone with a passion for a character actually getting to be that character, not just the studios being
Yeah,
like, "Oh, we're going to pick this person who's hot at the moment. We'll put them in."
that's exactly what I said. I agree completely.
Alrighty. So finally, where is the best place for people to support you and track the creative journey moving forward?
I'm on most social media sites, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, now on Blue Sky. I might be leaving Twitter soon. Also on TikTok, uh, YouTube, Apple, and Spotify. You could just look up Vigilante Vibes podcast and you'll find me everywhere there.
Wonderful. Alrighty. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me, and good luck with everything. And hopefully 2025 runs much more smoother, much happier for you.
Thank you for having me. It was very fun.